In this chapter, we're going to finish creating the exterior of the model. We'll begin with creating some geometry for the roof and for this area between the first floor and second floor. We'll also get the location, and that'll grab the location from Google Maps and import it into the SketchUp model. We'll then align the building, create the front facade, add some context by getting photos from Google Street View. We'll place some numbers on the house. And lastly, we'll show you a plugin for SketchUp to add solar panels on a roof. So first thing to get started here, since the second floor is grouped, we want to draw a group for the roof. Take the rectangle tool, just draw a massing over the top. You can erase that middle line. Double click, make it a group. Double click to enter inside the group, and push pull this up 16 inches. Let's do the same thing here. Draw a rectangle on this face. Double click, make it a group. Double click to enter the group, and just push pull this back to here. We'll do that here as well for the basement. Double click to select the face, make it a group, double click to open, and push pull down 30 inches. We're push pulling down 30 inches because the finished floor line of the first floor is raised above, and you have a couple steps that come down to the sidewalk. Now let's select all the geometry from left to right. Take the move tool, and we want to move this up 30 inches. The reason why we're doing that is when we import the geolocation, it imports it on 0, 0. So this will be below the model, and doing this before just saves us a step. Let's move on to the next video where we'll add a geolocation to our model. Geolocating the model is a pretty simple step in SketchUp. Now, in previous versions of SketchUp, you actually had to open up Google Earth, preview your location in Google Earth, and then bring it into SketchUp with a plugin. In this version of SketchUp, all we have to do now is just go to File, Geolocation, and click Add Location. Next, you can type in an address or intersection. Type in 1308 Moore Street, and that's Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Press Enter. It'll zoom in on the house. Now, you don't want to be zoomed in too close. Depending on how big your site is, you may want to get context, maybe do an entire city block. You can always add imagery to it, so you can add multiple views. And to add this, just click Select Region, and this is the clipping area of the texture that's going to import. You'll see this plus sign right here. I usually just move these and try and keep it so that the plus sign is in the center of our model. Next, just click Grab. And you'll notice it zooms out a little bit, but it places the house now, which is right here, right in our model. Let's select a window from left to right around our model and use the Move tool and move the bottom left-hand corner just to align to this bottom corner here. Now the city grid in Philadelphia is a few degrees off of north. So in the next video, we'll show you how you can reset the axes and rotate the building. To rotate and align the axes of our model, we first need to select the entire model. Go ahead and just select a window from left to right around the entire model. Click on the Rotate tool and make sure you're in that blue axis. Start in this bottom left corner. Click once to set your origin point. Click a second time to set your reference angle. Now I can zoom out and notice that it's approximately 9 degrees. Let's try 10 degrees. Now notice that the axis is still off 10 degrees. So if we were to begin with the geolocation as our process for modeling, it's going to draw everything on that true north, as you can see with the objects that I'm drawing right here. Just undo that. To change the model axes, you need to click on the Axes tool, and this is a 3-click process. The first click sets the origin point. The second click determines the red axes, and I always try to do red as right, so I always make it to the right. And then most important, to create the front facade, we're going to keep a lot of the geometry simple and just let the texture or photograph really show the front. You'll notice in the working files folder is a texture for the front facade. And this is just a crop texture that was cleaned up. And we're going to import it as a texture into the model. Let's go back into SketchUp and we'll start at the bottom. We'll double click to enter this group. Go to File, Import. Select the front facade. Make sure you have Use as Texture selected and click Import. Now we'll start in the bottom left. Hold down Shift so that it snaps to that top corner. Now it only applies it to the bottom face because these are all in separate groups. So simply sample that texture, click outside of that group, double click so that you're inside the first floor group, paste the texture there, click out, double click in, same thing, click out, click in, and same thing for the top. Draw a rectangle for our door. We'll reverse that face just so it's white for now. You can also create the steps coming out. Let's make this a group. And let's push this out 4 feet. Let's take the paint bucket, sample the texture, paste it here. Right click and go to Texture Position. And we're just going to drag an area closer to the second story just to have some brick. Refer back to the photo. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 steps. So let's divide. In this video, we're going to add context to our neighborhood. You can see on this neighborhood that we have some houses here that sort of stagger up and down, but they're all generally the same height. They're all 2-story houses. What we can do is just take the rectangle tool, and since we've aligned our axes, we can just draw a rectangle around this area here. We can do the same here. Here we'll just draw a little guide. That way we're starting at that right point. Let's take a look on how we can import Google Street View photography into the facade of our building here. The first thing we want to do is to select the face for the area where we want to import the texture to. Next, right-click on the face and go to Add Photo Texture. This is going to bring up the Google map at the bottom. The purple outline are the streets that are actually in Google Street View. So the neighboring house to the right is this house here. So let's minimize the map here. You can resize the window. That way it better shows the face here. Go ahead and click on Select Region. Now in this case, similar to texture tweaking we did earlier, the last thing we want to do in the exterior is go solar. Go to the extension warehouse and type in Skelion, Skelion, and search. There's 3 tools that this developer has. This one here is the free version. It allows you to auto-generate the solar panels onto a face, whereas the professional version links to data from PV Watts and from NREL. And using that data, you can quickly and accurately determine how many megawatt hours you'll actually get at your given site. We're just going to download the free version for right now. Again, we can sign in and download it. Now I already have this loaded, so I'll just go to Tool Palettes and bring it up. This is the free version of it. The second icon you can see is where you can insert solar components. You can also do a sun path chart for your site, as well as find additional information about the software. To add the panels, you first need to click on a face. So take the select tool and double click and make sure you can select the front face. Then click on the icon that looks like a solar panel. It's going to bring up a window where you can see the latitude and longitude. You can also determine the orientation of your panel. In this case, it can be relative, so it'll be flat, coplanar to the surface, but you could give it a fixed tilt. You can also determine the component size. So if there's a specific type of solar panel manufacturer that you use, you can browse through and find it from the list. Let's try this one, Green Brilliance. It'll tell you the length, the width, the thickness, the power of each panel, as well as the weight. Next, you can determine the spacing between panels, orient them portrait or landscape, adjust the stacking and row alignment, as well as if they are pitched, you can figure the worst case scenario for the pitch. In our situation, we're laying them flat, so we actually don't have to worry about any of this information. To auto-generate, just click Continue. And let's unhide the rest of the model because the panels actually create outside of the group that you're in and into their own group. So that's certainly a lot of solar panels there. If we had the Pro version, we could actually export this to PV watts and get a good calculation for how many kilowatt hours we're getting. With this number of panels, though, it probably looks like it'd be maybe 70% of my energy usage. Now it creates it as a group, so you could double click. And if you need to delete any, you could do so. I'm going to delete these back ones. That wraps up creating the exterior model. Let's move on to the next chapter, where we'll create scenes and styles to further view and look at the model from the outside as well as from the inside.